New stickers are available in my Etsy shop. Click the link in the description before they run out. Vampire Knight, the anime alternative to Twilight. This was a big gateway anime for a lot of people, and even though the dubbing may be considered cringy by modern standards, I can't deny the general vibe that this show achieved still generally holds up. I've always been a big fan of vampires and vampire lore, especially gothic romance. Vampire Knight, regardless of its flaws, that of which it has many, manages to deliver what a lot of fans were looking for. The original manga was released in 2004 to 2013, written by Matsuri Hino. And in 2017, there was a sequel series detailing the lives of the characters around what happened after the events in the main serialization called Vampire Knight Memories. 3 light novels were also released that weren't written by the original creator and add context to certain characters or have entirely new stories.
White snow. What snow? It's something that is not red.
What is this? Oh, well, you see this? Yeah? Well, it's not that. Oh, thanks, that clears up so much. Say what you want about this show, the opening and ending songs are still really freaking good, I swear. They got the vibe just right. The story takes place at Cross Academy. Yuki, the main character, is the headmaster's daughter. There's 2 classes, day and night classes. Night classes where all the incredibly attractive, totally not vampire students go. But we don't care about the rest other than Kaname.
Kaname.
Also, there's Zero, the white-haired, edgy sad boy. Straight from the get-go, we have the love triangle. Vampires are a secret to the world. That's why there's a special school for special people. What I forgot with mid-2000s anime was how they really like to add melodrama and overly dramatic acting, which works fine for a show, but people emulating that in reality made it painfully cringe. And this is back during the time where people, not a lot, but some, were still glomping other people. I was glomped once, they snuck up behind me. I almost had a panic attack. I almost punched them too, but it was in school, so they got lucky. Zero, white-haired edgy boy, hates vampires, can't stand them, and honestly, he's not really wrong. The only reason any vampire at the school isn't killing people is because the pureblood Kaname asked them to, and Zero wants to kill all of them because a vampire killed his family. Hey, quick question, if you wanted to keep vampires a secret, why wouldn't you just make another school? I know there's the whole thing of, oh, peace between vampires and humans and pacifism and blah, 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 but you're still trying to keep them a secret. And I get we need to have risk, but they don't even lampshade it.
No way!
No need for all this fuss. We just came out here
Bryce
because
Papenbrook! I know that voice anywhere. You have a tendency for playing blonde-haired heartthrobs. At this point, I should be voiced by Bryce Papenbrook. I get that they need weapons, but when I saw a couple high schoolers with weapons, really surprised me when I first watched this. Speaking of Kaname, the direction with the voice acting is only barely passable in this anime, and the voice talent in this show isn't even bad. Voice acting during this time was past the point of anime dubs being horrendous. They still weren't terrible, but you have examples like this one where the voice acting is still spotty. Also, apparently Zero is turning into a vampire. Forgot to mention that. You know, Zero is a legitimately interesting character. And the vampires use blood tablets to satiate their thirst for blood, but for them, it's like becoming a vegan when you've been eating Meat Lover's pizza your whole life.
Play along, Akatsuki.
Akatsuki? The Akatsuki!
What would your blood type be?
You know, to people outside Japan, that's probably really weird and on the nose, but that's actually clever. In Japan, your blood type is very similar to zodiac signs here for us, where your blood type is supposed to be indicative of the kind of personality you have. So on the surface, for us, it looked like it was very obvious and not very subtle, but technically, he actually made it look like he was flirting with her. When it comes to shoujo manga and anime, a lot of the draw is the internal struggle people face, and so there's lots of moments where characters will just stand around and talk to themselves, or we hear their thoughts. And for some people who don't live in their head, probably wouldn't be appreciative of this sort of story, but it's understanding the inner turmoil of each character and empathizing with that turmoil that makes the situation so interesting, and the drama slowly builds as the story progresses. Sometimes this show doesn't portray that inner turmoil well, like when Yuki is upset that she can't track down Zero, so, oh gosh, I need to frantically run with my eyes closed for no reason, and it's not like he's in danger, there's not a rush. She starts having flashbacks because I don't know, it's an odd sequence and it's not going to be the last one. There's not just rich, fabulous looking vampires, there's also poor vampires that are more animalistic. Classism even exists with vampires. According to Dreamboat Kaname, if someone is bitten by a pureblood vampire, they turn into one, which is what happened the night Zero lost his parents, and he reaches the point where he can't stay away from blood and ends up biting Yuki. Now Yuki finally knows why Zero has been so distant. He's becoming the thing he hates most.
He'll kill Zero. No, Kaname, please.
Yuki is so useless. Honestly, all the interesting things that happens in Vampire Night happens around Yuki. Not necessarily what Yuki does.
Any human who becomes a vampire will eventually fall to a level E.
Oh, so just any human will turn into those freaky vampires? Well, that sucks. They're really taking away the mystique of becoming a vampire. Kaname has this creepy, stalkerish obsession with Yuki. He says she's the only person he cares about, and not even the other vampires understand what's going on.
That girl is the only thing that I truly care about.
The headmaster is part of the Vampire Hunter organization, and he's been covering for Zero forever now. But now someone is going to them to check. And so now Zero is most likely going to be killed by vampire hunters too. Guy can't catch a break. I don't know who that is, but it looks like I want fan art of them. They use this special cool spell that makes it to where Yuki can immobilize Zero whenever she needs to. That way Zero doesn't need to be afraid of hurting her, and she literally never uses it during the show.
And if you still crave the taste of blood, feel free to help yourself.
Aren't you his adoptive father? I get that you're teasing, but flirting with a minor is no joke. Well, thank goodness it's just his adoptive father. It'd be extra weird if it was incestuous. Turns out, Sexy Eye Patch Guy is their new teacher. His name is Toga.
That patch you're wearing, is that some new fashion trend?
Duh, of course it is! Having missing limbs and scars is cool nowadays, so long as you can still look hot while having it. PTSD is sexy now. This is a joke, please don't cancel me. Yuki's character is legitimately annoying. I can understand that she's going through a lot, but if she's supposed to be trained to hunt vampires, then she's doing a crappy job. She always has to have someone else do the work for her. She's a damsel protagonist. If there wasn't a handsome, dashing guy to save her, she'd have died forever ago.
I borrowed this anti-vampire gun from the headmaster.
The night class students are good people.
Several of them have openly said that if it weren't for Kaname, they'd be drinking your blood. Zero is just the only character that has a head on their shoulders. You just like them because they're hot. Okay, no, but let's actually break this down. Zero and Yuki's disposition towards vampires is actually clever. Zero having his family killed by a vampire obviously would lead him to hate vampires. But Yuki having been saved by a vampire would make it to where she knows that vampires can be good. She's seen them be good, thus making her affectionate toward them. And so the author created a rift between Zero and Yuki, that of which both can be justified through their own personal experience. It makes perfect sense why Yuki keeps advocating for the vampires. She has seen them be good. I mean, she hasn't seen them be good a lot, it's just one guy, but hey, it's something. Obviously, Toga finds out that Zero is a vampire and tries to kill him. That's a shotgun. That'd be more than just a little shoulder wound. What the heck? Apparently, Zero knows this guy, trained under him even. What is the timeline with this story? I'm getting a little confused. And then this guy starts teaching the night class because, you know, vampire hunter, best way to keep an eye on them. No one is really happy about this situation. Zero explains his family is a generational vampire hunter family, and it was his school teacher that turned into a level E vampire, and it was Zero being dumb that caused Toga to lose his eye.
What are you?
No one will notice us in here.
In the bathroom where it can get steamy, if you know what I mean. Bow, chicka, bow, wow. Drink my blood, Oni-chan. No, Yuki, I can't. It's the only thing. The overtly sexual but also demonic act.
Even if I don't want to hurt anyone, I can't stop myself from lusting
Yeah, bow, chicka, bow, wow.
for blood.
Oh, yeah, right. The thing that makes Yuki an interesting character is how she balances her life and friends. Her situation and how she handles it is what makes it interesting, but also the love triangle is a thing and she's only just passably interesting. She has a lot of problems with being a damsel protagonist, but her character isn't entirely hopeless. Apparently, Yuki lost her memories as a kid, which was randomly dropped on us out of nowhere in a flashback episode. No one in this show can be normal, can they?
So from today, I'll give you a name that means tender princess. You'll be Yuki. Yuki! I filed all the papers to legally adopt you!
Even Yuki is adopted? Is everyone's parents getting killed by vampires? Now we get this weirdo girl that's obsessed with Zero because we can't just have one love dynamic, but she's not really the important one. Wow, Maria, a transfer student, the very obvious weird girl that was spying on Zero. That says that she has a strange bond with Zero, but for some reason, honestly, I watched this show and I don't even remember some of these details, but this is when season 1 starts getting important. The show is a slow build that drip feeds you information in order to tickle your curiosity, eventually growing the plot until its final conclusion. Kinda like a slow burn, but not quite. Doing this sort of plot structure is actually really difficult. If there isn't a strong beginning and regular drops of juicy info, then it's very easy to lose the audience's attention. There's a pureblood vampire named Shizuka that went crazy and disappeared after an incident with Zero's family, and she looks similar to Maria? Gosh, I'm sure that's just a coincidence. Maria is making a common enemy between the day and night classes. Even Zero is wanting to look for the night class for information, and it's because Shizuka, the pureblood, murdered his family. Not the teacher. The teacher is the first time he saw a vampire. It's not the vampire that killed his family. This point of the story typically confuses people, and by people, I mean me. Okay, so I guess Maria is important, but she's not the only important one. Zero says, screw it, and goes to kill her. But when they say there's a bond between them, they mean it. He literally can't pull the trigger, and not because he's hesitating. The reason is because she's the one who made him a vampire, and so Zero is technically her servant, and Yuki overhears all of it. Sometimes in anime, there's a problem with trying to sync the lines to mouth movements, and it can make for some awkward moments, that of which they've gotten a lot better in modern dubbing, but back then, it was bad.
I don't want to see you.
Well, that's rude. What the heck?
Get hurt.
Oh, what? Okay, fine then. I hate you. Feeling so bad about yourself. I can't stand Jessica being bullied so often. Oh no, the long-lost twin brother trope. What a convenient way to save on character design and voice acting talent. Yeah, isn't that right? Kingdom Hearts? Oh my gosh, the long-lost twin brother works for Maria/Shizuka. Ichiru, the long-lost twin brother, set up the whole thing and murdered his family because he was weaker than his brother? This is like a worse version of Sasuke. I think a lot of people that tried to get into the show couldn't, not because it was a shoujo anime. I think they couldn't get into it because they couldn't get past the acting. Brother, thank you so much for being nice to me. It only makes me hate you more. In my heart, there's a deep burning blackness of dark evil, inky blackness of evil. Do you think, if I started to talk like the night class students, that I too could be attracting many multiple women? I just need to have awkward pauses and strange inflections, and they'll be putty in my hands.
I slowly began to realize that our dear parents had become people I didn't care for at all.
He's literally talking like an edgy middle schooler dressed like Kirito. Okay, now that we're done making fun of it, let's talk about why it's interesting. Ichido is like Zero, looking at an alternate version of himself. Same face, but instead his vampire sympathizer. He even uses swords instead of pew-pew machines. He sees what he could have been and how far someone can go by admiring vampires, the road he thinks Yuki is on. Akatsuki and Ido find Shizuka's original body. Why? Why is it just under the school? That's awfully convenient.
It's easy to save Zero. He only needs to drink my blood.
Okay, cool, but also, why would you just tell her? Time to introduce an interesting dynamic to the plot. Yeah, but how does that align with the villain's motivation? Shut up, I'm writing the story! Shizuka is all like, I'm being hunted, have pity on me and let me drink your blood. And Yuki is just going along with it so that Zero can drink Shizuka's blood, trying to sacrifice herself for him. Honestly, it's sort of interesting.
You're being cruel yourself. The choices you make are causing Zero to suffer.
Yeah, we know she's not that smart. Or brave. And she's impetuous. But her heart's in the right place. Give her a break. So Kaname just straight up kills Shizuka and drinks her blood too, which means he's probably doubly strong since Shizuka is a pureblood. But then we get more cryptic storytelling.
I promise to find the very thing that you hated most.
Quick, drink her blood, Zero, before it's oh, that's a bummer. Sorry, bro, guess you're gonna go crazy. Since Zero is gonna go crazy, they chained him up in secret until they can figure something out. We get a little guy-on-guy action, hell yeah. That was all season 1. Apparently, both Kaname and Shizuka have some similar goal, that of which no one really knows about. Kaname is a confusing character since we can't really tell if he's good or bad. He's the reason Yuki lost her memories. But he swears he did it because it was the best thing to do for her. But he still gives me major stalker vibes, which kind of gets a pass for most people because it's very normal for vampires to have that undying love to the point of obsession. And some people like that. You know who you are. Season 2 is where everything really changes. And it's where a lot of people became dissuaded with the series because of reasons we will talk about. Frankly, the first half of season 1 and the latter half of season 1 feel like 2 different seasons. So much changed in between. And I wish they could have actually gotten to the actual plot of the show a lot sooner. What upsets me is Yuki's character. She doesn't seem to be doing anything. The protagonist at this point should be Zero. Yuki does become more of a focal point in season 2, but in some ways, for all the wrong reasons. Zero being locked up lasted all of one afternoon. Maria, like that actual Maria, not Shizuka using Maria's body, she's awake. I gotta admit, this was a turn I wasn't expecting. And her relevancy to the story stops here. I don't even know why they bother bringing her up right now. They just discard her character entirely after this.
The Kiryus were used as pawns when they hunted Shizuka's lover. There was someone else behind the scenes.
No one actually saw Kaname kill Shizuka, and they just assumed it was Zero that killed her. So the Senate of Vampires issued an order to execute Zero for killing a pureblood.
I want her gentle hands, her smile.
Zero is falling in love with Yuki now? I think childhood friend romances are weird.
I've already told you, I have no intention of turning Zero into a criminal until we know for sure who the real murderer is.
Listen, I get that Kaname is being creepy by not admitting to killing Shizuka, but also, I get that he wouldn't want to possibly start a whole fight between vampire pureblood families. I get it. I don't like that he's not admitting to killing her, but I get it. Out of all the creepy things he's done, this is the only one that has a good excuse.
Under no circumstances are you to leave this room until I return.
Let's play everyone's favorite game. Guess what happens next? Does Yuki A, stay in the room like Kaname literally just said, or B, leave the room because she caught curious and yup, looks like she's left the room. Were you wondering what happened to Ichiru? He got a job with the Vampire Senate, really moving up in the ranks. That guy is still human, regardless of him being a bad guy. I'm honestly impressed, good on him. Season 2 is where things get more, intimate, which is what I've been wanting from my vampire romance stories. Fun fact, vampires have always been icons of romance and sexiness. Beginning in a play in 1819 called The Vampire, with a Y, stories like Dracula were legitimate horror stories. I should know, I'm reading it, and it's still pretty effective. I couldn't sleep last night. The Vampire actually predates Carmilla, which was published in 1872. Vampires have been symbols of sexiness for a couple hundred years now. Heck, Dracula wasn't even the first vampire. Dracula was written after both The Vampire and Carmilla. Dracula was written in 1897. Vampires have always been explorations of carnal sin, which ties in well with them being sexy because being sex positive is weird in certain religious cultures. Don't ask me why. Also, the idea that vampires are weak to sunlight was only introduced in a movie called Nosferatu. So if you've seen the night class students in Vampire Night walking around during the day and thought, gosh, that's a little weird, ain't it? It's not technically all that weird. They do mention that they're weaker in the sunlight or something, I forget. Anyway, fun fact over, back to our bad vampire romance. Kaname wants to make Yuki a vampire real bad, like just so bad. And Yuki, just like anyone, is all, oh my goodness, yes, please turn me. But it doesn't happen, at least not yet, because we gotta keep the audience coming back for more. But now we get to see Kaname show his true feelings, finally. He's been so boring. Not what he does, but by how he acts. He's been holding back for so long, it's been frustrating. This little tease was perfect and exactly what I wanted. What we wanted. They've been slowly hinting that Ido is getting frustrated, torn between his loyalty for Kaname, but also struggling to understand his actions.
Lord Kaname.
He lost both his parents at once.
Well, that explains why he acts so fucked up. You know what? That's insensitive. He's handling being a weird creep like a champ.
If you had actually known something, I might have had to kill you.
Nope, I'm sticking to my pew machines. That explains why he acts so fucked up.
Lord Kaname. I love you, Lord Kaname!
I'm sorry, Ido, but this is a love triangle. We can't have you being a fourth wheel. Polycules make everything work, and we need conflict. Can I be honest with you guys? This show it hasn't aged well. I was surprised when I made a video on Ouran High School Host Club, and how well that show holds up. This show, I'm shocked it was even popular. Part of me thinks the reason was not just because it started off really nice with the whole love triangle thing, but eventually it got so bad and so cringy that people said, yo, check out this show and how bad it is. It definitely did a good job in establishing the tone, and the general dynamic of the characters is interesting, but watching it through a second time is definitely not worth it. I'm bored. I know I said that I might go through the Ouran High School Host Club manga and make a video out of that, which I ended up not doing, but I'm definitely going through the manga for Vampire Night. I am ravenously curious if it differs from the show. And I want to read Vampire Night Memories. Subscribe to see those later. Senri, a character that's been completely unimportant until now, apparently has a father that's been resurrected and a member of the Senate that has been working on this science machine thing for a while now. Yuki is getting frustrated that she can't remember her past, and now she's starting to think that the people in her life may be lying to her. Zero suggests to get the Vampire Hunter Association's record to see if her parents were really vampire hunters. So much for that idea. The page during the winter that she remembers burns when she touches it.
That's how I truly feel. You find my love repulsive?
Yes. In fact, I think everyone finds your love repulsive. Kaname, being the older creep that he is, tells Yuki that if she agrees to be his lover, that he'll tell her everything about her past, which is just so. How do you like this guy, Yuki? How? My God, he is walking red flags. Ido tells Yuki that he was investigating Kaname's past, and just like Yuki, both their past was burned and covered up, almost like it's related. Senri's dad straight up just took over Senri's body, and he's got beef with Kaname, who apparently destroyed him and also was engaged to Shizuka. This feels so forced. After Yuki complained enough about the flashbacks of her past, Kaname just takes it upon himself to bite her and turn her into a vampire without consent. I swear, I'm really disliking Kaname. We all saw it coming, but come on, guy. And then he gives her some of his blood to drink, so now she doesn't devolve into a level E crazy vampire. Now that's hot. It would be a lot hotter if it wasn't so creepy. Time for the boys to fight.
He's my older brother.
You mean your older brother just kissed you and wants to be your lover? This is where I would say 99% of everyone watching Vampire Night dropped off, including myself. But I need to finish this video, so we get to find out what happens next. But here's the thing, I did some snooping on the internet and, read some wiki articles, and it turns out Kaname isn't her brother? It says that Yuki is just confused, and Kaname is actually her ancestor from many thousands of years ago.
However, if I were truly born her older brother, then I would have been much happier.
So, it's still incest. And also that makes no sense. What, did he get reincarnated in a new body? We literally just watched them grow up together in this show. Now this snippet was taken out of context, and so I'm gonna have to read through the manga to see how accurate this is, but my God, this story is a mess. Any fun with the love triangle was ripped away with Kaname admitting that he's her brother. And we all know she's going to side with Kaname. She's been talking about how much she loves him throughout the entire show, and who wouldn't side with a sexy vampire? So Kaname's parents dying and Yuki's parents dying are the same parents! Wow! What an amazing twist! I'm so impressed! Thanks for setting that up for basically half a season. For some reason, Yuki's mom decided to use a spell to suppress her vampire genes to turn her into a human. How is that even possible? That's just a thing that they can do. Now this plot is really reaching.
Something is wrong with me because this whole time, I've been in love with my brother.
What's wrong with that?
Everything, you idiot! I didn't come here for Alabama vampires! I think the issue with the writing is that they put too much weight on the audience being interested in the mystery of Yuki's past, when the actual interest is the love triangle. When this released and there was a massive upset, I can't say I'm surprised that this didn't get more seasons. Toga is back, and the Hunter Association has a hit notice on Zero, so the headmaster has to pick up his sword, delving back into his murderous past to protect his adopted son. Honestly, the headmaster is just trying to be a good guy. He's the best person in this show. In order to kill Senri's dad, Rito, Kaname needs to fully resurrect him, so he gives him his blood. Why is Rito important? Because he's the one who killed Kaname and Yuki's parents. There you go, now he's important. And he apparently stole their first child? Just to add insult to injury, I don't like how they introduced him. They should have had Yuki get her memories back and then introduce Rito. Oh, hey, here's a character. Why should we care about him? Oh, right. Okay, here you go. I made him relevant to the plot now. Do you see why that doesn't pack a punch?
According to what you just said, you are unable to kill him yourself.
I am the progenitor of the Kurans. Rito is my master, for he's the one who awakened me from my coffin.
What? Now I'm just getting lost. How does a pureblood have a master? We're just adding a bunch of new rules out of nowhere. The secret of vampires is kind of out in the open now that the school is being raided by Rito's servants. Rito is resurrected. They start trying to make it seem like Zero turning into a vampire was all part of Kaname's plan, which is so stupid and I don't buy it, but here we go. Kaname can't kill Rito because of the servant master magic, so he needs Zero to do it for him.
I want you to devour what remains of my life. If you devour me, you can regain the powers you were meant to have at birth. You can control those urges. I
get that Zero apparently has Ichiru's power of a vampire hunter. I can even get behind Zero consuming Ichiru would give him the power because of twin power magic, I don't know. But how would it help him with devolving into a level E? We established that can't really happen without him drinking Shizuka's blood. Are they just retconning certain rules or are they just adding new ones? I'm lost. Zero chomps into Ichiru in order to somehow gain more power, and now Ichiru is dead. Yuki finally becomes useful, attacking Rito and got a weapon upgrade. At this point, I don't need explanations. I'm just rolling with it. Weird vampire magic. But Yuki finally having some growth is undermined with Zero stealing the spotlight right back.
It's time for our curtain to finally fall on our vampire night.
Oh my f***ing god! They really just did that. Oh, I took psychic damage from the overwhelming cringe. Zero gets a weapon upgrade too, and with one big pew-pew, Rito goes dead. That was anticlimactic.
You were all pawns that I had gathered here to protect Yuki. I have no further use of you.
If anyone is on Team Kaname, I want you to unsubscribe right now. But don't worry, it gets worse. Zero tells her that now she's a vampire, and he's a vampire hunter. He's going to eventually come after her to kill her, because that's who he is. I'll admit, he's a man of his word. For some reason, turning into a vampire makes your hair grow longer too. They made Kaname so unlikable that it drove the show into the ground. And you know what? The ending kind of hurt. It hurt because the show had so much potential and I just watched a train wreck happen. There were legitimately good ideas and I was on board with this whole show. Well, the last half of season 2 made me stop caring about any of it. The anime only covers about half the story. Literally, it only covers the first 10 volumes. Which I'm shocked because the pacing of the show is so slow sometimes that I wanted to bang my head against a wall. At first they were doing a good job using the pacing to set the tone, but then they just started having things that would happen that wouldn't amount to anything. I cut out entire characters because they weren't relevant to the plot. And so that, sadly, was Vampire Night. I hope you enjoyed this video. Stay beautiful and keep playing.